Chapter 1. A Wish Upon a Star. The evening air was crisp and refreshing, carrying the faint scent of pine trees from the nearby forest. The class had taken a school trip to a remote countryside inn, and after a full day of sightseeing, hiking, and dodging Najime's relentless antics, everyone was finally settling down. The teachers had allowed the students some free time before bed, and most of the class had either gathered in the common room for games or were already tucked away in their rooms. However, Tadano Hitohito found himself outside, seated on a quiet hill behind the inn. The sky above him was a perfect canvas of darkness, dotted with countless stars that shimmered like diamonds. It wasn't often he got to enjoy such a clear view of the night sky, and frankly, it was a good excuse to get away from the chaos inside. He wasn't alone though. Shouko Komi sat a few feet away, her hands neatly folded in her lap as she gazed silently at the stars. As always, Komi radiated an air of elegance without even trying. Her long jet-black hair shimmered faintly in the moonlight, and her posture was so perfect, it could have been mistaken for a painting. Tadano glanced at her briefly, then quickly looked back up at the sky, feeling a mild wave of self-consciousness. I don't know how she does it, he thought, scratching the back of his neck. She just sits there, and it's like the world slows down around her. Meanwhile, I'm over here trying not to look like a complete idiot. Komi shifted slightly, and Tadano noticed her stealing a glance in his direction. He smiled awkwardly and gave her a small wave. She quickly averted her gaze, her cheeks tinged pink. The two of them had grown closer over the past few months, though their relationship still had its awkward moments, mostly because Komi struggled to speak in front of others. Despite her near-legendary reputation as the school's most beautiful and refined student, Tadano was one of the few people who truly understood her. He knew her silence wasn't aloofness or disinterest. It was just her way of coping with her intense social anxiety. And yet, even now, Tadano sometimes felt like he was only scratching the surface. Nice night, huh? Tadano said, breaking the silence. Komi nodded, her lips curling into a small smile. A gentle breeze rustled the trees around them, and for a few moments, the only sound was the soft chirping of crickets. Tadano leaned back on his hands, letting his gaze wander across the sky. You know, he said, I read somewhere that if you see a shooting star, you're supposed to make a wish. They say it'll come true if you believe hard enough. Komi tilted her head slightly, her expression curious. Have you ever made a wish like that? He asked, glancing at her. Komi shook her head, her hair swaying gently with the movement. Really? Never. She hesitated, then gave a small shrug. I guess it does sound kind of silly, Tadano admitted. But, you know, it's not like it hurts to try. If I saw a shooting star, I think I'd wish for something simple. Like, he trailed off, scratching his chin. Maybe I'd wish for an endless supply of snacks. Or for Najime to stop dragging me into their crazy schemes. Komi covered her mouth with her hand, stifling a quiet laugh. Okay, maybe those aren't the best wishes, Tadano said, chuckling. What about you, Komi-san? If you could make a wish, what would it be? Komi's smile faded slightly, and she lowered her gaze. Her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her sweater. Tadano felt a pang of guilt. Nice going, Tadano. You know she has trouble opening up, and you just had to put her on the spot. You don't have to answer if you don't want to, he said quickly. It's just a hypothetical question anyway. Komi hesitated for a moment, then reached for her notebook. She always carried it with her as a way to communicate when words failed her. She flipped to a blank page, her pen hovering over the paper. After a few seconds of thought, she wrote something down and held it out for Tadano to see. I would wish to talk to people like you do. Tadano's chest tightened. He hadn't expected such a heartfelt response, and it reminded him just how much Komi struggled with something most people took for granted. That's a good wish, he said softly. But, I think you're already doing great. I mean, look at how many friends you've made so far. You're amazing, Komi-san. Komi's cheeks turned pink again, and she quickly looked away. Before Tadano could say anything else, a streak of light shot across the sky. Oh! He exclaimed, sitting up straight. Did you see that? A shooting star. Komi's eyes widened, and she nodded quickly. Quick, make a wish, Tadano said, squeezing his eyes shut. I wish, he thought. I wish I could understand Komi-san better. I wish I could really know what she's feeling, what she's thinking. I just want to help her, even if it's just a little. The warmth of the moment lingered, and for a brief second, Tadano felt a strange sensation, a faint warmth spreading through his chest. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was enough to make him open his eyes and glance around. He muttered. That was weird. Komi looked at him questioningly, tilting her head. Oh, it's nothing, he said, waving a hand dismissively. I just felt, I don't know, like a weird tingle or something. Maybe I'm just tired. She nodded slowly, though her expression remained curious. The two of them stayed outside for a little while longer, enjoying the quiet night. Eventually, Tadano stood and offered Komi a hand to help her up. Come on, we should head back before Najimi starts spreading weird rumors about us. Komi hesitated, then took his hand, her touch light and delicate. Together, they walked back to the inn, the stars twinkling above them. The next morning, Tadano woke up feeling different. At first, he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Everything seemed normal enough. The sunlight streamed through the window. Birds chirped outside, and his roommate was snoring loudly in the bed next to him. But as Tadano rubbed his eyes and sat up, he noticed something strange. His skin felt softer. He frowned, running a hand over his arm. It wasn't just softer, it was smoother too. Almost unnaturally so. Did I use some kind of lotion last night? He muttered to himself. Shaking his head, he got out of bed and headed to the bathroom. As he splashed water on his face, he caught a glimpse of his reflection and froze. His face was different. It was subtle, but his features looked slightly softer, more delicate. His jawline wasn't as sharp, and his cheekbones seemed higher. Tadano stared at himself for a long moment, his mind racing. No way, he whispered. This has to be some kind of trick. Maybe I'm just imagining it. But deep down, he couldn't shake the feeling that something strange was happening. Something he couldn't explain. Yet,